will, of course, bring you further updates from Nigeria as we get them following these devastating, deadly floods. Moving on now, at least 6 people have been killed and 15 others injured in a suspected drone strike on a hospital in Sudan as the country's brutal civil war continues to devastate civilian life. Rights groups say the attack on Obeid International Hospital in North Kordofan was carried out by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The hospital suffered severe damage and has halted services indefinitely, dealing a critical blow to medical care in the region. Another hospital in Obeid city centre was also reportedly struck. Obeid is strategic as it is a major army supply hub connecting to Dafa. The besieged city of El Fasher, still under government control, remains the last holdout in the region. Meanwhile, a cholera outbreak is escalating in Khartoum state, with nearly 2,200 new cases and 70 deaths reported in just 2 days, further deepening the humanitarian crisis in Sudan. Staying in the region, in Libya, hundreds of protesters gathered in Tripoli for the 3rd straight week, demanding the resignation of Prime Minister Abdelhamid Dbeibeh and his UN-recognised governments of national unity, chanting "Dbeibeh out" and "the people wants the fall of the government." Demonstrators filled the city centre, fuelled by anger over deadly clashes between armed factions linked to rival political forces. Tensions flared recently after a leader of one armed group was killed by fighters from the 444 Brigade, which is aligned with Dbeibeh's administration. The fighting escalated when the brigade then clashed with the Radar Force, a powerful militia controlling parts of eastern Tripoli and the city's airport. The UN says at least 8 people were killed in the violence. Libya remains deeply divided between Western and Eastern rival governments, with elections postponed since 2021.
في المظاهرات ثالث جمعة لينا هذه لإسقاط الحكومة. ليش نسقطوا في الحكومة احنا؟ لأن الحكومة جبناها باش تدير وحدة وطنية وباش تنحي الغلط اللي كان يعني في الحكومات الأسبق، لكن لقينا الوضع تأزم أكثر وأكثر.
الأولى هي إسقاط حكومة الوحدة الوطنية. حكومة الوحدة الوطنية عاتت في ليبيا الفساد المالي والإداري لا يخفى على الجميع، هو موجود في كل المؤسسات. أيضا تفكيك الميليشيات المسلحة ورفع الدعم عنها، المطالبة بالجيش والشرطة، وأيضا المطالبة بانتخابات فورية ومستعجلة.
We now move to the Indo-Pacific, and on the sidelines of the Shangri-La dialogue, India's Chief of Defence Staff has said that India successfully revised tactics in its recent strikes against Pakistani targets, claiming deep penetration and precision hits inside the country. He also reiterated India's strong stance against terror emanating from Pakistan. Let's take a listen.
Government of India has made it quite clear. They have laid down the limits of the tolerance against terror activities emanating from Pakistan, and it's quite clear that India is going to respond precisely and decisively should there be any further terror attacks emanating from Pakistan.
Speaking at the Shangri-La dialogue, Vietnam's defence minister also warned of unprecedented challenges since the Cold War. Let's have a listen to what he said.
It has to be clear to all that Beijing is credibly preparing to potentially use military force to alter the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific. We know, it's public, that Xi has ordered his military to be capable of invading Taiwan by 2027. The PLA is building the military needed to do it, training for it every day, and rehearsing for.
Meanwhile, US Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth issued a direct warning on China's military posturing in the Indo-Pacific. Hegseth called out China, calling it a threat. He said Beijing's army is rehearsing for the real deal, pointing to China's military drills around Taiwan. This is what the US Defence Secretary stated. Moving on, Hegseth stressed that the US will not leave its allies alone in the region and promised a stronger defence presence while urging partner nations to invest more in their own security, reassuring US commitment He said the future of America is intertwined with the region's security and prosperity. Let's listen in.
America is proud to be back in the Indo-Pacific, and we're here to stay. The United States is an Indo-Pacific nation. We have been since the earliest days of our republic. We will continue to be an Indo-Pacific nation with Indo-Pacific interests for generations to come. And under President Trump's leadership, the United States is committed to achieving peace through strength. That starts with deterring aggression around the world and here in the Indo-Pacific, here in our priority theater, here with you, our allies, and our...
He emphasised the shift away from imposing ideology and instead building defence ties based on common sense and mutual interests. Hegseth warned that any Chinese attempt to forcefully take Taiwan would have devastating global consequences, reaffirming that the US does not seek war but will not be pushed out of the region. Moving on, Australia's Defence Minister Richard Marles has called for greater military transparency from China amid growing regional concerns over Beijing's assertiveness. Speaking at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore, Marles emphasised the need for open communication to ensure a productive Australia-China relationship. His remarks follow February's live-fire drills by Chinese warships in the Tasman Sea, which distributed commercial flights and drew criticism from both Australia and New Zealand over a lack of notice. While acknowledging the exercises were lawful, Marles stressed China should minimise disruption and increase strategic transparency. He confirmed Australia tracked the Chinese task force closely, showcasing increased surveillance capabilities. Amid China's growing military presence, Australia plans to boost missile defence and raise defence spending to 2.4% of GDP by the early 2030s, including a $2 billion investment in US submarine infrastructure. Moving to North America, a major setback for the Trump administration's plans to dramatically reshape the federal government. A federal appeals court has upheld the lower court's ruling that blocks mass layoffs and agency overhauls ordered by President Trump. The decision upholds a San Francisco injunction by Judge Susan Ilston, who sided with unions, advocacy groups and local officials. They argued the president lacks authority to make such sweeping changes without Congress. The court said the administration failed to show any immediate harm from a delay and added that the plaintiffs are likely to win in the end. He was joined by Judge Lucy Koh, both appointed by Democratic presidents. Dissenting Republican-appointed Judge Consuelo Callahan said the plan should proceed while under appeal. The White House called the ruling absurd and plans to escalate to the Supreme Court. Officials accused the court of trying to seize executive authority over hiring and firing. Elon Musk made a final White House visit yesterday, marking his exit from the plan. Doge faces multiple lawsuits accusing it of overreach and labour violations. The coalition that sued praised the ruling, calling it a much-needed check on a plan they say was destructive and unlawful. For now, the legal fight continues and the future of federal overhaul remains uncertain. Thousands of people took to the streets of Serbia's capital Belgrade on Friday, demanding early elections. This follows 7 months of nationwide anti-corruption protests. The movement, driven by university students, began after a train station collapse in November, killed 16 people. Protesters blame the tragedy on corrupt infrastructure deals linked to Chinese companies and are now calling for justice and a snap vote. Serbian President Alexander Vučić has faced mounting pressure. Critics accuse him of suppressing democratic freedoms. Here is what some of the demonstrators have said.
Kao I današnji skup, ovo je poziv na izbore. Studenti su pre neko vreme tražili izbore, mi smo tu da podržimo tu poruku I tražimo izbore.
Zbog svega što se dešava zadnjih 30, da ne kažem zadnjih 15 godina, zbog javašluka I zbog saznanja da je Srbija nečija prćija I to više nije dozvoljeno uopšte. Ničija, ne njegova, ničija. Srbija je naša.